29. Mustard. Laura opened the refrigerator door. "Can I make you something?" asked her mother. Laura pulled out a jar of mustard. "Is this all the mustard we have?" she asked. The large jar was more than half full. Her mother laughed. "How much do you need?" "A bunch of kids are coming over," Laura explained. "Well, I think that should be enough," said her mother. "Now what do you want with your mustard? I can put some corn dogs in the microwave." "Nothing, just mustard," said Laura. She took it to the back door. "I'll be in the doghouse." "Laura!" said her mother. "What?" Her mother stared at her a moment, then shook her head. "Nothing," she shrugged. "When I was a girl I used to eat peanut butter straight from the jar." "How gross!" said Laura. She opened the back door. "On your way, if you don't mind. Would you move the sprinkler over by the rose bushes? Thank you." The lawn sprinkler was in the middle of the yard, spewing water in all directions. Laura set the jar down, then reached behind a shrub and turned off the water. She moved the sprinkler next to the 3 yellow rose bushes at the side of the yard. She turned the water back on, then took her mustard to the doghouse. "There's a lot more you can do with mustard," she thought, "besides put it on a corn dog." Within half an hour everyone arrived, with mustard. "We had 4 different kinds," said Erin. "This one's French mustard. This one has brown sugar and horseradish." "Yuck-ola," said Allison. "This one's got wine and garlic," Erin continued. "And this one has dill." He passed his unusual mustard around for the others to smell. "Your mother's crazy," said Debbie. "No offense." "What now would she do?" asked Laura. "She told me the next time I didn't have to bring my own mustard. She said she had plenty of mustard here, all I could eat. What does she think I'm going to do? Eat this stuff right out of the jar?" "She told me the same thing," said Nathan. "She eats peanut butter out of the jar, too," said Laura. All the mustard was set down on the coffee table, some in jars and some in plastic bags. "So what's the plan?" asked Debbie. "We can rub it in their hair," suggested Nathan. "Stick it in their shoes," laughed Allison. "And their desks," said Erin. "Down their pants," said Tiffany. She lay flopped across the purple beanbag chair. Laura sat still in the swinging chair. "We're going to divide and conquer," she said. Nobody looked very impressed. Laura was a little disappointed, but she knew they'd like her plan once they heard all the details. "Okay, first we have to learn our song," she said. "Do you have it, Kristen?" Kristen nodded. She was so nervous she hadn't said a word since she arrived. "Well, let's hear it," said Tiffany. Kristen stood next to the television. "See, since it's our national anthem, I wanted to make it sound patriotic." "That's good," said Nathan. "So it's the same tune as Yankee Doodle." She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, opened her eyes, and sang. "Laura Sibbie went to class. Her hair was long and pretty. Stuck a feather in her cap and called it Pig City." She smiled, then took another breath. "Pig City is the best. Monkey Town is mustard. They're uglier than Mr. West and mushier than custard." She blushed. "That's it." Everyone clapped their hands. "That's great, Kristen," said Nathan. "It's a lot better than the Monkey Town song," said Allison. "It's the best song I ever heard," said Erin. Kristen beamed. "Wait till Gabriel hears that," thought Laura. "Who's Mr. West?" asked Tiffany. "Who?" asked Erin. "She's saying they were uglier than Mr. West," said Tiffany. "So who's Mr. West?" "Oh," said Kristen. "Who is he?" asked Debbie. "I don't know," Kristen admitted. "I couldn't think of anything else to rhyme with best. Do you think it matters?" "No, there's probably a Mr. West somewhere who's ugly," said Nathan. "That's what I thought," said Kristen. "It's a common last name," Tiffany agreed. They all agreed it didn't matter. They memorized the words, then rehearsed it until they could sing it perfectly. Every time they finished, somebody would shout, "One more time!" "Laura Sibbie went to class. Her hair was long and pretty. Stuck a—" The door burst open. "Now!" Gabriel hollered. He was standing in the doorway without a shirt. In his hands he held the lawn sprinkler, turned off and pointed away from him. The water shot out. "All the way!" he yelled. The members of Pig City scrambled over each other and onto the bed against the wall. It was safe there. The water didn't quite reach that far, and the hose was stretched as far as it would go. Gabriel was the only one who got wet. In the backyard, Monkey Town sang. "Monkey Town, clap, clap. Monkey Town, clap, clap. We're the greatest club around. Clap, clap. Chicken pigs, clap, clap. chicken pigs, clap, clap. They lay eggs and suck on figs. Gabriel set the sprinkler down just inside the clubhouse door, then jumped back out of the spray of water. Let's go, he shouted. The singing stopped. Pig City were huddled together on the bed. Somebody get that thing out of here, shouted Laura. She was against the wall behind Kristen, who was behind Aaron. Nathan was on one side of her and Allison on the other. For the most part, everyone was dry. Only an occasional drop of water reached the bed, but the doghouse was being drenched. Nobody moved. Help! Help! Called Allison and Aaron. Shut up! Said Laura. Monkeytown might still be out there. Do you want them to hear you? During the stampede to the bed, someone had kicked over the coffee table, and the mustard fell to the floor. Jars broke and plastic bags opened. Mustard water with horseradish, brown sugar, garlic, wine, dill, and whatever else oozed across the floor. Aaron, shouted Laura, you're closest. My clothes will be ruined, he said. I have to walk home. You live here. You can change into dry clothes. I can't move, said Laura. I'm stuck behind Kristen. And I'm stuck behind Aaron, said Kristen. Drops splattered off the yellow floor. Look out, I'm coming through, said Laura. She pushed into Kristen. Aaron, Kristen, and Tiffany got tangled together, and all three fell into the yellow swamp as Laura jumped off the bed. She ran headfirst into the thick spray. She picked up the sprinkler and hurled it away. Monkeytown was gone. She walked to the back door and turned off the water. The citizens of Pig City dripped out of the doghouse, one at a time. Laura sadly shook her head. She felt ashamed. The clubhouse had been practically destroyed. She saw Gabriel's shirt lying on the back stoop. She realized he must have taken it off so it wouldn't get wet, then forgot it. She stepped on it. Now what are we going to do? Asked Kristen. We have no choice, said Laura. We have to surrender. She took off her wet cap. 30. Terms of Surrender. There was no school Monday because it was Memorial Day. On Tuesday, when Laura came to school, she didn't write on the blackboard. That wasn't the kind of thing a person who was about to surrender would do. She just walked into class along with everyone else. She held her hat in her hand. Pigs are all wet was written on the blackboard. Mr. Doyle erased it, then put the number 15 next to the rectangle. He told the class to pass their homework forward. Laura opened her notebook and took out several pieces of paper. She gave all but one to the girl in front of her. She nervously looked over the page she kept. She had worked harder on it than she had on all her homework. She read it for the 100th time. Dear Jonathan, this is a very difficult letter for me to write. It seems that the time has come for Pig City to surrender. It is foolish for us to fight if you're going to win in the end. We might all get kicked out of school if we're not careful. Meet me at the swings at the beginning of recess so we can discuss the terms of surrender. Come alone. As I'm sure you can understand, this must be kept confidential until all the terms are settled. Bravely, Laura Sibbie, President of Pig City. As she said, it had been a very difficult letter for her to write. She had to be careful that nothing she wrote was a lie. Now she had to think of a way of getting it to Jonathan. She didn't dare let Mr. Doyle see it. Laura, will you come here, please? Said Mr. Doyle. Laura smiled. That was easy, she thought. She put the note in her back pocket and walked to Mr. Doyle's desk. You're not wearing your hat, he said to her. So? You've worn it every day for a month. I was just wondering. There's no rule saying I have to wear my cap, is there? Nobody else has to wear a cap to class. Why do I? Mr. Doyle shrugged. You don't, he said. I'd gotten used to it, that's all. He smiled. I liked it. I apologize. Laura turned and walked away, swishing her hair behind her. She was glad Mr. Doyle liked her cap. On her way back to her seat, she took the note out of her back pocket and placed it in front of Jonathan, on his desk. He quickly covered it with his notebook. At recess, she walked out to the swing set alone. The lower grades had recess at a different time than the upper grades, so the swings were empty. She sat on the swing in the middle and slowly swung back and forth, dragging her feet in the dirt. Her cap was on her lap. Jonathan walked out to meet her, tall and proud. Thank you for coming alone, said Laura. This would be a lot more difficult if everyone was here clowning around. I understand, Jonathan said very seriously. Ulysses S. Grant didn't laugh at Robert E. Lee at Appomattox. May I see the note I gave you? She asked. He handed it to her. She looked at it quickly, then put it back in her pocket. As I said, if we're not careful, we might all get in trouble. Therefore, I think it's important for both clubs that the terms of surrender be fair and reasonable. Jonathan smiled. He had an evil gleam in his eye. We won't demand too much from you, he said. Maybe you'll have to be our slaves for a day. That's a possibility, said Laura. First, I want to make one thing clear. As president of Pig City, I have the power to agree to terms with you, and the rest of Pig City will have to do what I say. Do you have the same power? What do you mean? Well, this works both ways, said Laura. Will the other members of Monkey Town automatically agree to whatever you say? Jonathan thought a moment. Well, as you know, I didn't tell anybody about this meeting. You said to keep it confidential, so we didn't discuss what power I had. Laura sighed disgustedly. Are you the president of Monkeytown or aren't you? She demanded. Jonathan looked up and down and from side to side. Well, yes, sort of. I'm not actually the president of Monkeytown, he admitted. But that doesn't matter. You're not? Questioned Laura. Who is? Gabriel. Gabriel, Laura exploded. Gabriel tells you what to do? Gabriel orders you around? Well, he doesn't order me. I mean, we're all pretty equal. Gabriel, she repeated. I just assumed, she shook her head. I'm sorry, but I can only surrender to the president of Monkeytown. It doesn't really matter who the president is, said Jonathan. It does to me, said Laura. Gabriel, what a joke, she forced a laugh. How did he ever get to be president over you? Was there a vote? No, he started the club, so you should demand a vote, she told him. You know you're better than Gabriel. If they don't make you president, you should start your own club, Lion's Den. That's more like you anyway. Gabriel's a monkey. You're a lion. Well, maybe. I don't know, said Jonathan. I do, said Laura as she hopped off the swing. I know I'm not going to surrender now that you said Gabriel is president. What a joke. She walked away, swishing her long hair behind her. She hadn't lied. She wasn't going to surrender now. Of course, she wasn't going to surrender before either. Her plan was the same as it had always been. Divide and conquer. She knew that Gabriel was president of Monkeytown. He had told her that when she had tried to trick her into agreeing to a truce. But it wasn't a lie to ask a question, even if you already know the answer. She brushed her hair and put it on her cap. 31. Division. The citizens of Monkeytown argued with each other all during lunch. Gabriel, Sheila, Karen, and Howie were on one side. Jonathan, Yolanda, and Howie were on the other. Howard agreed with everything anybody said. Jonathan told them that if he was president, Pig City would have surrendered already. They'd have to do whatever we ordered them to do, he stated. Laura was begging for mercy until she found out Gabriel was president. You said she gave you a note, said Karen, peeling an orange. Let's see it. She took the note back. Without the note, you have no proof, said Sheila. He doesn't need proof, said Yolanda. Jonathan wouldn't lie, Howard agreed. Why would she want the note back, asked Sheila, if she was going to surrender anyway? I'll tell you why, said Gabriel. She probably said everything Jonathan said she said, but Laura's a stinking liar. She wants us to fight with each other just like we're doing. She tricked you, Jonathan, just like she once tricked me. She made a fool out of you, too. You're the fool, Gabriel, not me, said Jonathan. Laura would never surrender, said Karen. If Jonathan was president, she would, said Yolanda. They'd be our slaves, said Jonathan. Then why wouldn't she surrender to Gabriel? Asked Sheila. Because Gabriel's a joke, said Jonathan. Hey, said Gabriel. That's what Laura said, said Jonathan. I didn't say it. Okay, said Gabriel. But it's true, Jonathan added. Gabriel started the club, said Karen. He led the attack on their clubhouse. You've done a great job so far, Gabe, Howard agreed. That's why Laura wants to surrender, because of what you've done. Gabriel's done okay, Jonathan admitted. I could have done better, but he shrugged. The important thing is Laura won't surrender so long as Gabriel's president. She'll never surrender anyway, said Karen. Gabriel's our president, said Sheila. We never voted, said Yolanda. They voted. Gabriel won 4-3. Howard voted twice. Jonathan quit. I don't take orders from Gabriel, he asserted. I'm starting a new club, Eagle's Nest. He and Yolanda walked away hand in hand. Howard ran after them. Let me join Eagle's Nest too, Jonathan. Gabriel's a fool. You voted for him, Howard, said Yolanda. I voted harder for Jonathan. Sorry, Howard, said Jonathan. You're not good enough to be in Eagle's Nest. Howard returned to Monkeytown. He stuck his thumb in his ear and wiggled his fingers. Boy, Jonathan and Yolanda are so conceited, he said. We're better off without them. I never believed Laura wrote him a note. Get lost, traitor, said Karen. I didn't want to join Eagle's Nest, Howard tried to explain. I was going to spy on them for you guys. Sheila snorted. Bye, Howard, Gabriel said coldly. Laura folded her arms in front of her. What do you want? She asked. Can I join Pig City? Asked Howard. It was still lunchtime. Everyone except Aaron had finished eating. Howard had told them all about Monkeytown's Civil War. He said he didn't want to join either Monkeytown or Eagle's Nest. He said he wanted to be a member of Pig City. They questioned him until he told them everything he knew about the two clubs. He showed them the secret Monkeytown salute. Laura thought it was the silliest thing she'd ever seen. So when can I join Pig City? He asked. Laura decided he had no more useful information. Never, she said. Kiss off, said Debbie. Everyone put their thumbs in their ears and wiggled their fingers at him. He sadly walked away. We should have told him he could join, said Tiffany. Then we could have taken him to the clubhouse and mustardized him. They all laughed. Howard's not worth it, said Laura. I'm saving my mustard for Gabriel. 32. Nice. Let's cut off all her hair, suggested Sheila. What? Asked Gabriel. Are you crazy? You have any better suggestions? Asked Sheila. Gabriel sadly shook his head. There was nothing to do. He was out of ideas. Uh-oh, here they come, said Karen. Just ignore them, said Sheila. They headed home. Pig City followed and sang. Laura Sibbie went to class, her hair was long and pretty, stuck a feather in her cap and called it Pig City. Pig City is the best, Monkeytown is mustard, they're uglier than Mr. West and mushier than custard. One more time, shouted Kristen. After having to listen to the song 3 more times, Gabriel, Karen, and Sheila finally were left alone. I have a plan so we'd never get caught, said Sheila. Who's Mr. West? Asked Karen. What? Who? Asked Gabriel. Karen sang. They're uglier than Mr. West, she spoke. So who's Mr. West? I don't know, said Gabriel, and I don't care. Don't you two know anything? Asked Sheila. Mr. West owns the computer store in the mall. He sold us our home computer. Is he ugly? Asked Karen. Ugh, he's gross, said Sheila. Let's go to the mall, urged Karen. I want to see him. Look, do you want to hear my plan or not? Asked Sheila. What plan? Asked Gabriel. Okay, Laura has to walk to school alone so she can get there early to write on the board, right? On her way, she walks past the Hollow Creek apartment complex. There's a short brick wall that separates the apartment complex from the sidewalk. We can hide behind that. Then when Laura walks by, we can reach over the wall and cut off her hair. She won't even feel it. She'll just keep on walking to school while her hair remains in a lump on the sidewalk behind her. Gabriel and Karen stared at her, eyes wide. Sheila continued, She won't know anything is wrong until she sees herself in a mirror, and she'll never know how it happened. She'll wonder about it her whole life until she's old and gray. Her hair was long and pretty, she said snidely. You know Laura wrote that song. She is so vain. I know I wouldn't want hair like hers. I'd have to wash it every day. Laura never washes it. That's why it's so smelly and matted. You're bonkers, said Karen. No, wait, I got a better idea, Sheila exclaimed. After she walks away, we can pick up her hair and then put it in Jonathan's desk. He'll get blamed for it. We'll get Pig City and Eagle's Nest at the same time. It's perfect. Gabriel didn't think so. What's wrong with it? Sheila demanded. It isn't, said Gabriel. He tried to find the right word. It's not nice. Nice? Asked Sheila. Nice? You're sick. I mean, Gabriel tried to explain, you know, breaking pencils is one thing, but cutting off her hair? That's cruel. We're all going to graduate in 2 weeks. Why be mean? I should have voted for Jonathan, said Sheila. It's not nice, she said mockingly. She snorted, then stormed away. Gabriel and Karen took turns kicking a rock as they continued walking. Thanks for voting for me, said Gabriel. I know you and Yolanda are best friends. You started the club, said Karen, and you were the one who led the attack against Pig City. And, she smiled, you're nice. Yankee Doodle used to be my favorite song, Gabriel said sadly. 33. Conquer. Laura and her friends helped her mother carry 9 bags of groceries in from the car. They set them down on the kitchen counter. Did you buy any mustard? Laura asked. As a matter of fact, I did, said her mother. I know how much you and your friends all like it, so I bought 2 big jars. That ought to last you. Thanks, said Laura. She found the sack with the mustard and handed one jar to Tiffany and one to Kristen. Yeah, thanks, Mrs. Sibbie, said Tiffany. They all thanked her. Laura took several spoons out of the silverware drawer. Laura told everybody to wait out front for her out front. Then she went into her room. She got Gabriel's shirt with her footprint on it from the bottom of her sweater drawer. She got something else, too. It was the note he had put in her desk a long, long, long time ago. Hey, Laura, I know all about Pig City. If you don't kiss me, I will tell the whole school. You have ugly hair. Your humble servant, Gabriel. She stuck the note in her back pocket, then joined her friends out front. They went to Gabriel's house. Laura walked to the front door, carrying his shirt. Everyone else hid behind a car parked in the driveway next door. She rang the doorbell. Gabriel opened the door. I came to return your shirt, said Laura. He stared at her. She stepped back off the front stoop. Gabriel stepped out of the house onto the stoop. First, I want to show you something, said Laura. She took another step back, then took the note out of her back pocket. What's that? He asked. The note you wrote me, she said. I just want to prove to you that I know you're the liar. Gabriel put his hands on his hips and sighed disgustedly. Do you want to see it or not? She asked. She turned her back on him and stepped out onto the lawn, swishing her hair behind her. He stepped off the stoop. I already know what it says. Then you admit you lied. Let me see it. She held out her hand. He walked to her and took the note from her. He stepped back to read it, still on the front lawn. Of course it said exactly what Laura had said it said. Gabriel knew it would. It was so obvious that she had changed it. He could even see the eraser marks. As he was reading the note, Tiffany sneaked out from behind the car and knelt down behind him. He looked up. Surprise, surprise, he said sarcastically. I guess I was lying all along. Here's your shirt, said Laura. She started to hand it to him, then shoved him hard over Tiffany. He fell on his back. Then Pig City pounced on him. Nathan, Aaron, and Debbie held him down while Kristen and Allison spooned the mustard out of their jars and dropped clumps of it onto his face and clothes. He struggled helplessly to get free. He started to shout, but closed his mouth just in time to avoid a spoonful of mustard. A glob covered his nose. Laura sat by his head. Over here, she said, in his hair. I want to give him a shampoo. He sneezed, blowing tiny particles of mustard in all directions. Kristen dumped the rest of her jar out on his head. Laura thoroughly rubbed it into his hair. Tiffany untied Gabriel's sneakers and pulled them off his feet. Allison dropped spoonful after spoonful into each shoe. His socks, too, Allison said. They pulled off his socks and filled those with mustard as well. Then they managed to put his socks and shoes back onto his kicking feet. Allison tied the shoes tight. Mustard oozed out through the holes for the laces. Both jars of mustard were emptied. Let's get out of here, said Laura. They took the jars and spoons and hurried away. Gabriel lay where he was for a moment, then sat up and wiped his face with the shirt that Laura had so thoughtfully returned. He stood and walked into his house, mustard squished between his toes. Part 3. Gabriel's Revenge. 34. Kaput. Laura was feeling pretty spunky after her victory over Gabriel. On the blackboard she wrote, Pugs are punctilious. She wasn't sure exactly what punctilious meant, but she loved the way it sounded. She said it out loud. Punctilious! The word exploded out of her mouth. She cautiously looked around. She almost forgot she wasn't allowed to be there. She shrugged it off. Mr. Doyle will never catch me. I'm punctilious. She thought it meant something like perfect, but even more than perfect, super perfect. She walked punctiliously through the school to the outside, whatever that means. Pig City was waiting for her, fists at noses. She snappily returned the salute. When we see Gabriel, Nathan suggested, let's all start calling him Hot Dog. Tiffany laughed. He won't come today, said Laura. He wouldn't dare. He'll never come to school again, said Debbie. Monkey Town is kaput, said Kristen. Kaput, Nathan repeated. He liked that word almost as much as Laura liked punctilious. Her message was still on the board, unchanged, when they all walked into class. Gabriel's desk was empty. Mr. Doyle? Lindsay asked. What does punctilious mean? Mr. Doyle thought a moment. I don't know, he said oddly. Can anyone tell us what it means? Nobody raised a hand. Oh, no, you don't, thought Laura. You're not going to catch me that easily. Mr. Doyle asked Lindsay to look it up in the dictionary. She reported back that it meant extra careful. How ironic, said Mr. Doyle. I don't think the person who's been writing on the board has been very punctilious. In fact, I now know who that person is. The class buzzed. Laura wasn't worried. Who? Asked Lindsay. Mr. Doyle shook his head. Not yet, he said. Tomorrow I will have proof. 24 hours from now I will put the person's name inside that box. Someone will have to copy 16 dictionary pages. Laura still wasn't worried. At recess, Pig City gathered out on the grass. They all talked about what Mr. Doyle had said. Laura waved it off. He doesn't have a clue, she told them. Look, exclaimed Kristen, there's Gabriel. Gabriel was walking across the playground toward the school building, whistling. He walked right by them. Hello, everybody, he said. Did I miss anything important in class this morning? They stared at him, dumbfounded. Well, I have to go check in at the office and let them know I'm here, he said. See you later. He waved and walked away, whistling again. The members of Pig City looked at each other. What in the world? Said Allison. He's crazy, said Tiffany. Maybe he has mustard on his brain, said Nathan. Everyone laughed, except Laura. He's up to something, she thought. For the first time all day, she worried. The rest of the day, Gabriel acted in the same manner. He said hello to the members of Pig City when he saw them, and even tried to talk and joke with them. I think he just wants to be friends, Aaron said during lunch. He doesn't have any other friends left. Let him be friends with Howard and Sheila, said Debbie. Howard and Sheila were now hanging out together. Laura didn't think that was it. Gabriel was up to something. I never should have given him back his note, she thought. She could have kicked herself. He knew what he wrote. I didn't need to give him the evidence. But now that he has it, what's he going to do with it? After school, Gabriel did it again, whatever it was he was doing. Hi, Laura, Tiffany, Allison, he said. They ignored him. What do you think of that history test? He asked. That was tough, huh? For me, anyway. I didn't have time to study very much because I had to take a bath. I had to wash my hair. He laughed. Do you hear something, Laura? Asked Allison. I don't hear anything. I think I hear a bug, said Laura. At least it was only mustard in my hair, said Gabriel. That's not too hard to get out. Not like spaghetti, huh, Tiffany? I don't hear anything either, said Tiffany. Well, I gotta get going, said Gabriel. See you guys tomorrow. He walked cheerfully away. What an idiot, said Allison. Laura turned pale. I have to go home, she said suddenly. What's wrong? Asked Tiffany. Laura didn't answer. She hurried away from her friends and raced home. Gabriel's words rattled inside her head. Not like spaghetti, huh, Tiffany? It was all starting to make sense to her. That was why he was late for school. She walked, ran, walked, ran, walked, ran until she reached her house. Out of breath, she walked around the side of the house to the backyard. She stopped just outside the doghouse. She was afraid to enter. She closed her eyes, crossed her fingers, then opened her eyes. She stepped inside. Everything seemed to be in order. They had cleaned it up after Monkeytown's attack. She got down on her hands and knees and looked under the bed. The treasure chest was gone. 35. Let's make a deal. Laura picked up a French fry and dragged it through a blob of ketchup on the edge of her plate. Besides French fries, her plate contained a hamburger and corn on the cob. Sorry we didn't have anything you like, said her father. But don't worry, tomorrow I'll make egg salad, liver, and beets just for you. He was trying to be funny. Laura didn't laugh. I'm not hungry, she muttered. She continued to drag the French fry around her plate, leaving a trail of ketchup behind it. She was trying to think of some way to get the treasures back from Gabriel. It seemed hopeless. She was out of tricks. She wished there was something she could steal from him. Then she'd have something to trade. I never should have given him back the note, she thought. She could have traded the note for the treasure chest. She could have even threatened to show that to the whole school. Everyone would know he wanted to kiss her. That's it, she thought. Maybe he still wants to kiss me. She knew that she was pretty. It was possible Gabriel still wanted to kiss her, even after she mustardized him. She'd seen enough movies to know that men like to kiss pretty women, no matter how rotten they are. It was worth a try, anyway. May I be excused? She asked. Her parents excused her, but warned her not to come back in 30 minutes looking for something to eat. I won't, she said. She went into her room and closed the door. She brought the phone to her bed and pushed the buttons. As she waited for Gabriel to answer, she lifted her cap, shook her hair and put the cap back on. Hello, said a girl's voice. Hello, I'd like to speak with Gabriel, please. Gabriel! Screamed the girl. Laura took several deep breaths, trying to steady her nerves. "Hello?" said Gabriel. "Hello, Gabriel. This is Laura." There was a moment of silence. Then, "Hi, Laura. I was just doing my math homework. Have you started it yet?" "No, not yet. It's pretty easy except for the last two problems. They're tricky." "Oh, okay. I hear we're going to have a movie tomorrow about the solar system. That should be good, don't you think?" "I know you have it," said Laura. "Have what?" "You know what." "I don't know what you're talking about, Laura. Unless you tell me, I can't." Laura sighed. "The treasure chest," she said. "The treasures of Pig City." "The treasures of Pig City? Gee, I don't know. Describe what they look like." "I don't have to describe them for you. You know what they are. You stole them." "I asked you to describe them to me," said Gabriel. Laura closed her eyes. She knew she had to do whatever Gabriel said until she got the treasures back. She could picture Gabriel smirking at her as she described all the items in the chest, from Aaron's song to Allison's rear end. He made her to recite the declaration of love word for word. "I, Laura Sibbie, declare that now and forever I'm in love with my teacher, Mr. Doyle. I dream about him all the time, and if I was older I'd like to marry him." Her face burned. "Oh, those treasures of Pig City," said Gabriel. "What are you going to do with them?" "Gee, I don't know. I thought maybe I'd bring them to school for show and tell." "I'll make you a trade," Laura offered. Gabriel laughed. "What do you have that I want?" "Me," she whispered. He laughed harder. "Please, Gabriel," she pleaded. "Give them back. I'll do anything you say." "Anything I say?" he asked. She collected herself. "Within reason." "You said anything." "Anything within reason." "How do I know I can believe you?" "You know I never lie." "That's right. I forgot. The note you gave me proved I was the one who lied." "If you bring the treasure chest here now, I'll do whatever you say. I promise." "Gee, I can't," said Gabriel. "I'm not allowed out of the house, and none of my friends can come here. You see, I got in trouble for getting mustard all over everything." "I'm sorry, Gabriel. Really I am. That was a terrible thing we did to you." "Eat a raw egg." "What?" "Eat a raw egg, and you can have your treasures back." Laura pulled the phone away from her ear and covered the mouthpiece with her hand. It could have been a lot worse. She brought the phone back to her mouth and said, "Okay, go do it." "You mean now?" "Yep." "How do you know I'll really eat one?" "Like you said, I know you never lie." "Okay, I'll be right back. Hang on." She set the phone on her bed and walked out of her room into the kitchen. Her parents were putting the dishes into the dishwasher. She opened the refrigerator door. "Now she's hungry," said her father. "I knew it." "Well, don't eat junk," her mother said to her. "Let me put your hamburger in the microwave." She ignored them. She got an egg from the inside of the refrigerator door and set it down carefully on the counter. The refrigerator door swung shut. She opened the cabinet above the counter and took out a small juice glass. She cracked the egg into the glass. Her parents watched in awe. "Is this some kind of experiment for school?" asked her father. She stared at the blob at the bottom of the glass. For just a second she considered telling her first lie. It would be simple. She could just tell him she ate it. He'd never know. She held her nose with one hand and lifted the glass with the other. "Laura!" exclaimed her mother. Well, at least it's better than kissing him, she thought. She poured the egg into her mouth and swallowed it whole. It oozed down her throat. She stuck out her tongue and said, "Yuck." She went back into her room and picked up the phone. "Gabriel, are you there?" There was no answer. "Gabriel!" she shouted. "I'm here," he said quietly. "I did it. I ate a raw egg." "Good for you, Laura." "When do I get the treasures back?" "Soon." He hung up. She set down the phone. She hoped she could trust him. She had to. She went into the bathroom and brushed her teeth for 10 minutes.